Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, as the Bitcoin bull market continues on the larger time frames, we are now just 1 day away from new inflation numbers, which could shake up the market in the short term, as the price of Bitcoin is now perfectly rejecting from my exact Bitcoin price target, as the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates are now getting very overheated, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum now rejecting from my exact area of resistance, while Solana is now retesting this previous area of resistance after the latest breakout. So I'll be talking about all of that and so much more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin charts today, we need to talk about the Bitcoin news today, because on Monday, just yesterday, we saw a massive net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs. So the big players in the market are continuing to buy massive amounts of Bitcoin, because just on Monday, we saw a net inflow of over 1.1 billion US dollars, which is one of the largest net inflows that we've ever seen for a single day. And out of all of the individual Bitcoin ETFs, on Monday, we saw the largest inflow into the BlackRock ETF of over 756 million US dollars, buying up the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, which essentially means BlackRock is buying that much worth of Bitcoin in order to back their Bitcoin ETF. And so right now, BlackRock and other massive players are still buying huge amounts of Bitcoin. Meanwhile, MicroStrategy just yesterday basically announced that they bought another $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. So basically around 27,200 Bitcoin for $2 billion US dollars. And they actually bought this when the price was at around 74,500, but they just announced this yesterday. So big players in the market like MicroStrategy, BlackRock, Bitcoin ETFs, they're all accumulating massive amounts of Bitcoin. And in other crypto news today, we saw Tether, just over the last 1 day, Tether printed another 2 billion USDT, so $2 billion worth of USDT stable coins, and they just did that over the last 1 day to basically replenish their supply in their treasury. And so essentially what this means is Tether is expecting a future increase in demands for USDT, so basically money coming from outside of the crypto ecosystem altogether, from the banks for example, into crypto, because how essentially USDT comes into circulation is by money from outside of crypto coming into crypto. So for example, let's just say if I had $100,000 in the bank, if I send that to Tether, then they send 100,000 USDT into my crypto wallet. And so that way, USDT is backed 1-to-1 with US dollars. So if I ever wanted to redeem that USDT, I just send the USDT back to Tether, and then they send me back the US dollars. That's basically how it works. So in order for this 2 billion USDT, in order for that to enter into circulation into the crypto market, they're expecting $2 billion coming from outside of the crypto market into the crypto market. So basically, huge demands right now from these whales like MicroStrategy, BlackRock, etc. are continuing to buy huge amounts of Bitcoin and crypto. But something else that we have to be aware of is tomorrow we have new CPI inflation numbers getting released in the US. So basically, this is getting released at exactly 1:30 p.m. in the GMT time zone. So you can work that out in your own time zone, 1:30 p.m. GMT on the 13th of November. So just tomorrow. And currently the CPI inflation rate in the US year over year is 2.4%. And currently the majority in the market is expecting for inflation to come in at 2.6% year over year. So actually a slight increase from where it is right now. So once again, 2.6% year over year inflation in the CPI is the expected result tomorrow, which means if we get those numbers, if it comes out as 2.6%, that is neutral for markets, because that's already being priced in. But if we see anything other than 2.6%, that is where we could potentially see a bit of volatility. So for example, if it's lower than 2.6%, that would be considered bullish for markets. If it's higher than 2.6%, that would be considered bearish for markets. And the further away from 2.6% we get, the more volatility we'll likely see. So if we only see 2.5% or 2.7%, that's not really a big deal. That will still be relatively neutral. But if, for example, we see something like 2% or 3.5%, anything like that, then would likely see a massive move in the market. So for example, if it somehow came in at just 2% flat, would likely see a huge pump across the market. But if we somehow see inflation come in at, let's just say 3.3%, for example, would likely see a dump across the market, at least in the short term. And the reason behind that is all to do with the Federal Reserve of the United States. So basically, if inflation comes in higher than expected, that means the market would have to price in for basically less interest rate cuts or potentially even an interest rate hike, but essentially less interest rate cuts, which is bearish for markets. But if inflation comes in lower than expected, then the market might have to price in more interest rate cuts, which is bullish for markets. And the next FOMC meeting, also known as a Fed meeting, is happening on the 18th of December, so roughly around 1 month from now. And currently the market is pricing in a 69% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut, which means reducing interest rates by 0.25%, and a 31% probability of interest rates staying the same at the next Fed meeting. So essentially, if inflation comes in below expectations, below 2.6% tomorrow, then this right here, this 69% number will likely increase in probability here of a rate cut if we get lower than expected inflation. But on the other hand, if we get higher than expected inflation, higher than 2.6% tomorrow, then this probability over here will likely increase the chance of interest rates staying the same at the Fed meeting. And as always, I'll be sharing this new inflation number as soon as it gets released tomorrow over on my Twitter within a matter of seconds of this new inflation number getting released. So if you want extra updates throughout the day in real time, check out my Twitter link down below for those extra updates and for this number tomorrow. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on this weekly Bitcoin chart, zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, things are still looking very, very bullish right now. We're still seeing this huge bullish reversal and breakout from the weekly Bitcoin RSI, which we've usually seen near the beginning of huge bull runs that last for many, many months. And we've just started to see the beginning of this major bull run on the larger timeframes. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, we're still playing out huge bullish momentum in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, and the last time we saw a flip from bearish to bullish in the weekly Bitcoin MACD was around October 2023, and what came next was a huge bull run over the next half a year approximately. So right now we're still in the beginning stages of this bull run, and so right now, ultimately zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, things are looking very, very bullish right now. And if we're taking a look at the 4-day Bitcoin chart right now, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, which is obviously a bullish signal for Bitcoin. And so despite what happens on small time frames in the short term, once again, this is yet another bullish signal that usually happens during a bull market. And if we're taking a look at this 2-day Bitcoin chart, right now we're still playing out this huge breakout, basically a bull run from this previous descending broadening wedge pattern. So as I've been saying over and over again here on the channel, and even in this video right now, things are still looking bullish on the larger time frames when we're zooming out. But if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin chart, right now the price of Bitcoin has just run into this exact Fibonacci extension, the 1618 Fibonacci extension, which I have been warning about non-stop over the last 1 week or so, since basically the moment we broke all-time highs above 74,000. Back down there, I said expect a run all the way up towards 89,000, and then at around 89,000, expect resistance at that level, which means a possible rejection. And that's exactly what we saw. To the nearest $1,000 here, we pumped exactly up towards around $89,000, and then that's exactly where we saw a rejection. So right now, $89,000 approximately is acting as resistance, as I've already been saying since before we hit that level. And so what this means, in case you're new to all of this, resistance is essentially where there's a lot of traders interested in selling Bitcoin or taking some profits from Bitcoin at that level right there, which means the price will struggle to go beyond that level, at least in the immediate short term. Usually it might take 1 or 2 attempts and then eventually break out later on. That's essentially how resistance works, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now as expected. But as I've said in recent videos here on the channel, if we see a little bit of a pullback or rejection for any reason here in the short term, don't be fooled, because a lot of beginners make the mistake of just panic selling everything anytime we see just a tiny little correction or pullback on the small time frames in the short term. Ultimately, when we're zooming out, once again, looking at the bigger picture, things are still looking very, very bullish right now. We're still due to see a bull run at least over a number of months. And so just remember that, of course, things do not move in a straight line. It's very normal to see these rejections along the way or slight little pullbacks here and there along the way up during the bull run. And so oftentimes, not financial advice, but oftentimes these pullbacks that we see during a bull run are actually turning out to be great buying opportunities, at least so far. So just keep that in mind as well. And in case you're wondering, yes, personally, I'm still long on the price of Bitcoin, basically trading this entire bull market to the upside. And if you want to take trades just like that for yourself, personally, I take most of my trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make your Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is a 500 USDT position airdrop. So basically a free $500 trade as your first trade over on Bybit, but that's only available if you use the link below this video to make your Bybit account and actually deposit on that account. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there's also Bitfinex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitfinex, which means if you're in the US or the UK, for example, or another country where you might not be able to access Bybit, you can access Bitfinex. So I'll also leave a link to Bitfinex below this video. And if you use that link, you can get up to a 5.5k deposit bonus. And only if you use that link, you can get an exclusive 10% discount on all trading fees on the Bitfinex exchange forever. But that's only if you use the link below this video to make your Bitfinex account. So as another option out there, other than Bybit, one that you can access from the US, once again, there's Bitfinex, links down below if you want to claim those extra bonuses. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, right now the funding rates are actually getting very, very overheated because the neutral funding rate is 0.01%. And right now, pretty much all of these funding rates are well above 0.01%. And so what this actually means, in case you're new to all of this, essentially it's becoming more and more expensive to hold and maintain a long position, and it's actually becoming a little bit more rewarding, at least in terms of the fees, to hold a short position. Obviously, if the price of Bitcoin still goes to the upside, the short positions still lose money. But in terms of the funding rate fees, right now shorts are getting paid funding rate fees and longs are actually paying a lot of funding rate fees. And so essentially the long positions need the price of Bitcoin to go towards the upside in order to continue to profit from Bitcoin. Essentially, if Bitcoin just goes sideways, let's just say if Bitcoin goes perfectly flat, perfectly sideways, the shorts would actually be making money from these funding rate fees and the longs will be losing money due to very positive funding rates. And so oftentimes, due to that fact, when the funding rates get very overheated like this, it's very normal to see, and it's very likely that we see a little bit of a cool off, kind of like what we're seeing right now, rejection from resistance, and basically a bit of sideways price action or even a slight little pullback in the short term before potentially resuming the bull market later on after we wipe out some high leverage late long positions that were late to enter. But obviously, that's just talking about the shorter term, as in potentially what we could be expecting over the next few hours or days. But when we're talking about weeks or months from now, once again, I'm still very much bullish. It's very likely that the Bitcoin price will be much higher when we're talking about a matter of weeks or months from now. But over the next few hours or days, it is also quite likely that we could see a bit of a cool down in the short term, as we are now rejecting from resistance and those funding rates are very overheated. So just keep that in mind, but that could possibly present a bit of a buying opportunity, not financial advice, because on larger timeframes, once again, we're still looking very, very bullish. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously over the last one day, we wiped out some more short positions, basically breaking out above around 85 to 86,000, which I said in my last video, it will cause another short-term short squeeze up here, pushing the price closer towards around 89 to 90,000. And that's exactly what we saw as expected. But now as the price is running into this resistance, once again, we're seeing a bit of a rejection from that resistance in the short term. So keep that in mind. But looking at this liquidation heat map, we still have a lot of liquidity to the upside, just above $90,000. So once we can finally break out above this resistance, maybe in a few days from now, after we first see a bit of a cool off, maybe in a few days from now, whenever we eventually break out above 89 to 90,000, then that would once again cause another short squeeze as we wipe out more liquidity. And just before getting into Ethereum and Solana, I am starting to post more often over on my Instagram. So if you're over on Instagram, check out my Insta, link down below, and watch out for scammers. There's a lot of impersonators over over on Instagram try to copy my profile and scam you. So this is my only real profile over on Instagram. Watch out for the verified tick. That is the real one. Once again, link down below if you want to get extra content over there. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and right now the price of ETH is still playing out that huge bullish reaction from this massive line of support, which is still sitting at around 2.4k approximately. So once again, on the larger time frames, despite what happens in the short term, the larger time frames are still looking very bullish right now, expecting a bull run at least over a number of months. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day time frame, right now the momentum and the trend in the market is clearly bullish despite any little pullback that we might see in the short term once again. And in terms of resistance, we're still trading right around that 3.2k level, which could be acting as a bit of resistance. And we also have some more resistance closer towards 3,500 and major resistance at around 3.9k to 4k. And as for support, once again, at around that 3.2k level, we could also find a bit of support around there, give or take. If we actually pull back a little bit further, we could find some support close to 3.2k. And if we're taking a look at this daily Ethereum chart, we have just perfectly seen a rejection from my exact area of resistance that I've been warning about over and over again here on the channel since all the way back down here. First of all, back down here, once we broke out above 2.8k, I said basically expect a huge bullish move all the way up towards this next resistance, and then I said expect resistance around here in between around 24.30 to 25.50, and as of right now the price made it just above 24.30, and that's exactly where we rejected from after this bullish move, exactly as expected. And so once again, that is the resistance to watch out for, at least in the shorter term, which means expect the price to struggle in this price range, which is exactly what we've seen. So just in the short term, maybe for a couple of days, give or take, we might see a slight little pullback or sideways consolidation, basically a bit of a cool off from all of this bullish price action, potentially just in the short term, talking about maybe a number of days. But once again, when we're looking at the bigger perspective on the larger time frames, that could possibly just present a bit of a buying opportunity, not financial advice, but on the larger time frames, right now things are still looking very bullish despite this rejection happening in the somewhat shorter term. And if we're simply looking at previous levels of support where the price has previously bounced from, we're looking at around 3170 to 3180 as some possible short-term supports, and more supports closer towards around $3,000 approximately. So if we run into those levels, once again, we could potentially bounce around those levels. But if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the weekly time frame, we're still trading right around that 210 level, which is currently acting as a bit of resistance on the weekly time frame. But if we can fully clear that level, then we're basically heading up towards the all-time high for Solana, which is sitting at around 250 to 260, where we could also find a decent amount of resistance at that all-time high level. But once we can eventually break out above 260, obviously we'll be heading into new all-time highs, which will be very, very bullish as the price enters into price discovery. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, right now the price has already confirmed the breakout on the daily time frame with a daily candle close well above this previous area of resistance in between around $200 to $210. And as of recording this video, we're currently seeing a retest of this previous area of resistance, which should now be acting as new support. So once again, we should be expecting support in between 200 to 210, which, in case you're new to all of this, basically means there should be a lot of buyers in this price range trying to buy Solana. But if we actually break back below 200, obviously just in the short term for a number of days following that break, that would be a bearish signal if we break below 200. And so in that scenario, expect to move down towards the next area of support in between around 183 to 187. But obviously for now, we're still finding support, at least as of recording this video, in between 200 and 210. So like I've been saying here on the channel, looking at the larger time frames, things are still looking very, very bullish right now, expecting a bull run on the larger time frames. But just in the short term, we're seeing a bit of a cool off, a retest in the short term, similar to the projection for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this could possibly be just a buying opportunity during a larger bull run. Not financial advice, but that is what it's looking like right now. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto to maximize your profits in crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.